This 4-year-old beggar girl is humiliated by a gas station attendant, but the millionaire owner arrives and something happens. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The scorching sun of Bakersfield beat mercilessly on the asphalt of the gas station when Lily, only 6 years old, timidly approached the counter. Her bare and dirty feet contrasted with the impeccable uniform of Chad, the 34-year-old gas station attendant who watched her with barely disguised contempt. The girl held the hand of her mother, Daisy, a 28-year-old woman whose tired face revealed months of suffering living on the streets of the city known for its country. Music and oil fields. "Please, mister," Lily whispered with a voice hoarse from thirst. "Could we have a little water? My mom's feeling sick." Chad looked up from his phone where he was watching videos, a cruel smile forming on his lips. "Oh yeah? And do I look like the Salvation Army here, huh?" His loud voice drew the attention of other customers. "Hey everyone, look at this!" Now street kids think a gas station is a free-for-all. Daisy pulled her daughter back, her face red with humiliation. She had been a teacher, a respected woman, until her own brother tricked her in a real estate scam that left her homeless and penniless. Now, months later, she watched her daughter being humiliated for a sip of water. "Sorry, we didn't mean to bother you," Daisy murmured, trying to pull Lily away. "Yeah, you didn't mean to bother me." Chad stood up, gesturing theatrically. "But you did, didn't you? This is a business, not a homeless shelter. If you want water, buy it." Some customers looked with pity, others with irritation. Lily began to cry softly, and Daisy felt her chest tighten. How many more times would she have to see her daughter go through this? "Look at that, she's crying now," Chad laughed loudly. "She'll have to learn early on that nothing in life is free, especially for deadbeats." It was at that moment that a deep voice cut through the air like a razor. Interesting life philosophy. Everyone turned to see Theodore Sampson emerging from behind one of the columns of the gas station. At 52 years old, the man wore a discreet but clearly expensive suit, and his grey eyes fixed on Chad with an intensity that made the gas station attendant pale instantly. "Mr. Sampson," Chad stammered, suddenly nervous. "I didn't know you were here." "Obviously." Theodore approached slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. "Continue, please. You were explaining to the child about how nothing in life is free." Silence fell on the gas station. Daisy recognized the man. Everyone in Bakersfield knew Theodore Sampson, the millionaire owner of the gas station chain who had built an empire from nothing. But she also knew his reputation: cold, calculating, someone who hadn't shown compassion for anyone since he lost his wife 3 years earlier. "Sir, I was just—" Chad tried to explain, but Theodore raised his hand, silencing him. "How much does a cup of water cost, Chad?" "What do you mean, sir?" "It's a simple question. How much do you charge for a cup of water?" Chad swallowed hard. We don't sell water, sir. It's complimentary." "Complimentary?" Theodore repeated the word, savoring it. "What an interesting concept. So you deny courtesy to a 6-year-old child because she can't pay for something that is free." Lily had stopped crying and watched the scene with wide eyes. Something in the calm but firm way of that man made her feel protected. "I didn't mean that, Mr. Sampson. It was a misunderstanding." "There was no misunderstanding. In fact, it was very enlightening. It helped me understand what kind of person represents my company." Theodore took his wallet out of his inner jacket pocket. "Here you go, little one." He extended a $100 bill to Lily, who looked at her mother before taking it. "Take it, sweetie. Buy all the water you want, and if there's any left, buy some ice cream." "Mr. Sampson, please." Chad tried to intercede. "You're fired." The words came out with a coldness that made everyone present feel a chill. Remove your belongings and leave my establishment, now. Daisy remained still, holding her daughter close. Part of her wanted to refuse the money, preserve her dignity. But seeing Lily's bright eyes, imagining that they could buy real food, made her resistance crumble. "Thank you," she murmured. Theodore observed her for a moment, noting her erect posture despite the situation, her worn but clean clothes, the protective way she held her daughter. There was something about that woman that piqued his curiosity. "What are your names?" "Daisy. And this is my daughter, Lily." "Lily." He repeated the name, and for the first time in years, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Pretty name, like the flower. Just like my mommy said." Lily finally spoke, gaining confidence. "She said that lilies are the strongest flowers that grow even in the desert." Theodore crouched down to the girl's height, something in his chest stirring in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. "Your mother is a wise woman." It was then that he made a decision that would change all their lives forever. "Daisy, do you have a place to stay tonight?" The question caught her off guard. We manage, sir." "That's not an answer." Theodore stood up, resuming his authoritarian posture. "You have an academic background?" "I'm a teacher. I was a teacher. I need someone to take care of my house, and Lily will need proper education. I have a proposition to make." Daisy felt her heart race. Proposals from rich men to desperate women were rarely honest. But there was something in that man's eyes, a deep sadness that mirrored her own. "What kind of proposition?" "Come with me to my house. We'll talk calmly." Chad, who was still there collecting his things, let out a bitter laugh. "Be careful, boss. These people are experts at taking advantage of other people's kindness." The change in Theodore's face was instantaneous. His eyes narrowed dangerously. "Get out, now, before I call security." When Chad finally left, Theodore turned again to Daisy. But something had changed in his expression, a hardness that wasn't there before. "The offer still stands, but I want to make one thing clear. I don't tolerate lies or opportunism. If you agree to come with me, it will be based on total honesty." Daisy nodded, although a voice in her head screamed that she was making a mistake. But when she looked at Lily, who was smiling, holding the $100 bill as if it were a treasure, she knew she had no choice. "I accept." What none of them knew was that this seemingly casual encounter had been observed by other eyes. In the diner across the street, Roger Vance lowered his binoculars and smiled with satisfaction. His plan was working better than expected. Chad had done his part perfectly, creating exactly the situation he needed to have something against Theodore Sampson. Now, he just had to wait for the right moment to use that information. Meanwhile, Theodore guided Daisy and Lily to his car, without imagining that his seemingly controlled life was about to turn into something much more complex and dangerous than any business he had ever faced. Theodore Sampson's mansion stood imposingly in the most upscale neighborhood of Bakersfield, surrounded by high walls and perfectly manicured gardens. Daisy held Lily's hand more tightly as the electronic gate opened, revealing a property that seemed straight out of a dream. For someone who had spent months sleeping in parks and doorways, that vision was almost unreal. "Mommy, is it a castle?" Lily whispered, her eyes shining with admiration. "It's just a house, honey," Daisy replied, but her own voice trembled with nervousness. Theodore parked in front of the main entrance and got out of the car, observing their reactions. There was something disturbing in the ease with which that child marveled at simple things, reminding him painfully of how Estella used to see beauty in everything around her. "Come in," he said, opening the massive wooden door. The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior. antique furniture of quality mixed with modern pieces, creating an elegant but cold atmosphere. Daisy immediately noticed the absence of personal photographs or any feminine touch in the decoration. It was the house of a man who had chosen to live isolated from the world. "Sit here in the living room while I prepare a snack." Theodore indicated a leather sofa. "I imagine you haven't eaten anything substantial today." Lily settled on the sofa as if it were made of clouds, while Daisy remained tense, analyzing every detail of the environment. Her years as a teacher had taught her to read people and situations, and something in that house made her uneasy. Theodore returned minutes later with a tray containing sandwiches, fruit and juice. Lily devoured everything with a hunger that broke his heart, while Daisy ate slowly, still suspicious. "Now let's talk about my proposal." Theodore sat in the armchair. In front of them, "I need someone to take care of this house. My former housekeeper retired 2 months ago, and since then I've been living in a complete mess." "And what does that have to do with me?" Daisy asked, keeping her voice firm. "You said you're a teacher. You can take care of the house and give Lily private lessons. In exchange, I will offer a fair salary, housing and all expenses paid." Daisy frowned. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because I need help and you obviously do too." Theodore crossed his legs, assuming his negotiator posture. "But there are conditions. Lily must attend regular school in the morning, and you will be responsible for all the maintenance of the house. I do not accept laziness or carelessness." "Can I go to real school?" Lily interrupted, her eyes shining with hope. "You can," Theodore confirmed, and for the first time since they arrived, his tone softened. "There is an excellent private school 5 minutes from here." Daisy felt tears burn her eyes. Private school. Her daughter would have the opportunities she herself had missed, but there was still something that didn't fit. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Theodore was silent for a long moment, his eyes lost in some distant point. "Because 3 years ago, when my wife was in the hospital, a nurse told me something I never forgot. Sometimes God puts us in the path of people who need us, to remind us that we are still human." The mention of his wife created a palpable tension in the air. Daisy perceived the deep pain in those words, the wound that still bled. Is she gone?" she asked softly. 3 years ago," Theodore confirmed, his voice becoming harsher. "Since then, this house has become a mausoleum. Maybe it's time to change that." Lily, who had finished eating, stood up and walked to Theodore. With the naturalness that only children possess, she placed her small hand on his arm. "Are you sad? Because you miss her?" The unexpected question made Theodore choke. No one talked about Estella with him. No one dared to touch on the subject that had turned him into the bitter man he had become. It's complicated," he murmured. "I also get sad when I miss my daddy," Lily continued, innocent. "My mommy said he left when I was little, but sometimes people leave because they need to take care of other people up in heaven." Daisy froze. Lily had never talked about her father like that. In fact, the child didn't even know who her father was, a married man who had disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. But at that moment, seeing Theodore's eyes fill with suppressed tears, she decided not to correct her daughter. "That's a beautiful way to think," Theodore said, his voice choked with emotion. "Then you can be sad together, and then be happy together too," Lily smiled with the simple wisdom of children. At that moment, something changed in the atmosphere of the house. Theodore looked at Daisy, who was watching him with a softer expression, and made his decision. "There are rooms for you on the 2nd floor. You can choose whichever you prefer." "I accept your proposal," Daisy said finally, "but I also have conditions." "Which ones?" Lily and I have dinner together every night. I won't give that up. And on Sundays we visit church. Those are the only traditions we have left. Theodore nodded. Agreed. They went up to the second floor, where Daisy chose 2 connecting rooms, one for her and one for Lily. While the girl explored her new room with ecstasy, Daisy approached the window and had a panoramic view of Bakersfield. It was then that she noticed something strange in the library that was on the ground floor, visible through one of the windows on the side. There were books scattered on the floor, as if someone had looked for something specific. "Mr. Sampson," she called when he passed through the hallway, "does your library always look like that?" He looked in the direction she was pointing and frowned. "No, I tidied everything up myself yesterday." A feeling of alarm grew in Daisy's chest. "Does anyone else have access to the house?" "Only the caretaker, but he doesn't enter the library." Theodore went down the stairs quickly, followed by Daisy. In the library, they found a scene that confirmed their worst fears. Books scattered, drawers open, papers rummaged through. Someone had been there looking for something specific. "Was anything taken?" Daisy asked. Theodore checked the most obvious valuables. An expensive computer, some rare books, important documents. Everything was in place. "I don't understand. Why would someone break into a house not to steal anything?" "Maybe robbery wasn't the objective," Daisy murmured, her experience as a teacher making her think analytically. "Maybe they were looking for information." "What kind of information?" Before she could answer, they heard the sound of a car approaching. Theodore looked out the window and saw a black Corolla parking in front of the gate. "Are you expecting visitors?" Daisy asked. "No." The intercom rang, and a voice that Theodore immediately recognized echoed through the house. "Theodore? It's Roger. I need to talk to you urgently." Daisy noticed how Theodore's face hardened when he heard the name. "Who is Roger?" "My biggest competitor in business, and the last person I expected to see here today." Theodore pressed the intercom button. "What do you want, Roger?" "It's about the incident at the gas station today. Can I come up?" Daisy and Theodore exchanged glances. How could Roger know about what had happened at the gas station? "Let him up," Daisy whispered, "but keep Lily away from here." Theodore agreed and opened the gate. Minutes later, Roger Vance entered the house with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Theodore, my old friend, and this must be the famous Daisy that the whole town is already talking about." Daisy's blood ran cold. How did that man know her name? And why would the whole town be talking about her? "What are you talking about, Roger?" Theodore asked, his voice full of suspicion. "Oh, the story of the millionaire who rescued the beggar and her daughter is already running through all the city's WhatsApp groups. Some people say it's very beautiful. Others say you're being naive." Roger shrugged with false innocence. "You know what small-town folks are like." Daisy felt her stomach sink. In a matter of hours, her life had become public gossip, and from the way Roger was smiling, that hadn't happened by chance. "Interesting how news travels fast," Theodore commented, his eyes narrowing. "Especially when there are photos." Roger took his cell phone out of his pocket and showed an image of Theodore handing the money to Lily at the gas station. "It turned out really good, don't you think?" At that moment, Daisy understood that they had fallen into a trap much more elaborate than they had imagined, and the worst was yet to come. The silence that followed the revelation of the photos was deafening. Daisy felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet, while Theodore watched Roger with an expression she had not yet seen, dangerous and calculated. "What game are you playing, Roger?" Theodore's voice came out low, controlled, but full of threat. "Game?" Roger laughed, putting his cell phone away. "I'm just being a good friend, warning you about the risks you're running. You know how it is, Theodore. A man in your position needs to be careful with the company he keeps." Daisy stepped forward, anger overcoming fear. Are you insinuating something? Me? Not at all. Roger raised his hands in false innocence. I'm just worried about my old friend here. After all, a respected businessman bringing home a woman in a situation of homelessness. Well, people can misinterpret it. Get out of my house! Theodore's words cut through the air like blades. Now! Calm down, calm down. No need to get upset. Roger headed for the door, but stopped halfway. I just came to warn you that the photos are already circulating. It would be a shame if they reached the newspapers, wouldn't it? Especially with, let's say, creative captions. Theodore clenched his fists, but before he could respond, Roger was already leaving. Think about what we talked about. I'm sure we'll find a solution that benefits everyone. As soon as the door closed, Daisy collapsed on the sofa, her hands shaking. He's right. I shouldn't have agreed to come here. I'm leaving right now. You're not going anywhere. Theodore sat down next to her, his voice softer than usual. Roger is trying to manipulate us. That's exactly what he wants. But the photos are of an act of kindness. Any sensible person would see that. Daisy laughed bitterly. You don't know the power of gossip in a small town, especially when it involves a rich man and a desperate woman. From the top of the stairs, Lily watched the adults with wide eyes. Even without fully understanding the conversation, she perceived the tension in the air. She descended silently and approached Daisy. "Mommy, are you crying?" Daisy quickly wiped her eyes. "No, honey, just tired." "Are you guys fighting?" "Why, was that man yelling?" Theodore crouched down to the girl's height. "We weren't fighting, Lily. Sometimes adults have complicated problems to solve." "Is it because of us?" Lily's innocent question made Daisy's heart break. "Of course not," Theodore replied before Daisy could speak. "You're welcome here, and anyone who says otherwise will have to deal with me." That night, after Lily went to sleep, Daisy and Theodore stayed in the living room trying to understand the situation. Theodore poured coffee while they organized their thoughts. "I need to know more about this, Roger," Daisy said. "It's not normal for someone to have so much interest in destroying another person." "Roger and I have a long history," Theodore sighed. "We've been competing for the same market for years. He's always resented my success. This goes beyond competition. He planned everything, the gas station attendant, the photos, even knowing our names." Theodore stopped stirring his coffee. "What do you mean, the gas station attendant?" "Think about it. Why just today, just when you were at the gas station? Was Chad especially cruel to us? And why did Roger show up here knowing exactly what had happened?" The realization hit Theodore like a punch. Chad was working for him. Exactly, and the invasion of the library today. Someone was looking for something they could use against you. Theodore stood up abruptly. "The contracts. My God, the expansion contracts are in the library." They ran to the library and Theodore opened a safe, hidden behind the books. Inside, they found organized folders, but one was missing. "They took the documents for the new gas station chain," Theodore murmured, his face pale. "If Roger has access to that information, he can sabotage them? Worse, he can anticipate all my moves, get to the best locations first, offer prices that I can't compete with." Theodore ran his hands through his hair. 3 years of planning, lost. Daisy watched his despair and felt a determination grow in her chest. "Then let's get those documents back." "How?" "First, we need to prove that Chad was working for Roger. Then, we use that to pressure for the return of the documents." "And how are we going to prove that? You said Chad was fired today. A man who lost his job on a Friday would normally stay home drinking or looking for another job. He wouldn't be comfortable enough to go out to dinner." Theodore looked at her with growing admiration. "You're suggesting we follow him?" "I'm suggesting we find out where he is now. If it's in an expensive place, we'll know he has an alternative source of income. 2 hours later, they were in Theodore's car watching Chad leaving an upscale restaurant, accompanied by a man they immediately recognized. It was Mark, Roger's right-hand man. "Bingo," Daisy whispered, taking photos with Theodore's cell phone. "That doesn't prove anything legally," Theodore observed. "It doesn't need to prove it legally. It needs to create doubt. Tomorrow morning, we'll go to the police station to report the theft of the documents. We mention the suspicion about Chad. We show the photos. The police will interrogate him. And if he doesn't confess? Men like Chad aren't loyal when the pressure increases, especially if Roger hasn't fulfilled all the promises he made." The next morning, Daisy woke up with Lily jumping on the bed, excited for her first day of school. While getting her daughter ready, she couldn't stop thinking about the night before. It had been a long time since she had felt useful, since she had used her intelligence for something beyond surviving. "Mommy, do you think the other kids will like me?" Lily asked, nervous. "They'll love you, my angel. You're special." "What? If they ask where we lived before?" Daisy stopped combing her daughter's hair. This was a conversation she knew she would need to have, but she hoped it would be later. "Lily, do you remember when we talked about how sometimes things get difficult in life?" "I remember. Well, we went through a difficult time, but now we're okay. If anyone asks, you can say that we moved here so you could study at a better school. But what if they tell about yesterday at the gas station?" Daisy realized that her daughter had understood more of the situation than she imagined. "Whatever they say, remember, you didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I. Sometimes people say bad things about other people because they are unhappy with themselves." When they went down for breakfast, they found Theodore talking on the phone with a tense expression. "I understand. Yes, send all the copies you have." He hung up and turned to them. It was the detective. Chad confessed everything. He said he was working for Roger. He said Roger paid him to create embarrassing situations whenever I appeared at the gas stations. Yesterday's incident was planned to make it look like I was insensitive to people in need. The photos would be part of a campaign to tarnish my reputation. What about the documents? They're still with Roger. Chad says he only handed over copies of some contracts he found in the library. Daisy felt a momentary relief. So the situation isn't that serious. Actually, it's worse. Theodore sat down heavily. "The detective told me that Roger has already registered interest in the same land plots I was negotiating. Using the information from the contracts, he's going to try to get there first." "How much time do we have?" "The meetings are on Monday. 2 days." Lily, who had been playing with her cereal, looked up. "Why don't you talk to the man who wants to buy the land plots? Explain that the other man stole them." The simplicity of the suggestion made both of them stop. Daisy looked at her daughter with pride. "You know what? Lily's right. Why don't we call these owners and explain the situation? Because I don't have proof that Roger is using stolen information. Not yet. But if he shows up at the meetings with proposals identical to yours, you will." Theodore considered the idea. "You're suggesting I go to the meetings knowing he's going to be there?" "I'm suggesting we change the game, that we prepare proposals different from the ones that were in the stolen documents." "What if I had already finalized all the details based on those plans?" "Then we improvise. Sometimes the best solutions come from necessity, not planning." At that moment the phone rang. It was a local reporter. "Mr. Sampson, I'd like to ask you some questions about your new family situation." Theodore hung up without answering, but the damage was done. The media had found the story. "It's over," Daisy whispered. "When this becomes news—" "It's not over," Theodore said with a determination she didn't expect. "If Roger wants war, he'll get it, but this time I'm not going to fight alone." He looked at Daisy and Lily, and something changed in his expression. For the first time in years, he didn't feel completely alone against the world. Lily's first day at school started promisingly, but quickly turned into a nightmare. Daisy had left her at the gate with a kiss and words of encouragement, but it wasn't long before the other parents began to whisper and point. "That's her," one mother commented to another. "The one that Theodore Sampson brought in from the streets." "They say she took advantage of his kindness," replied the second. "Poor man, still shaken by the loss of his wife." Lily heard everything, pretending to play alone in the yard. When a girl approached to talk, the child's mother quickly pulled her away. "Don't mix with those kinds of people, Letitia." At recess, Lily sat alone under a tree, watching the other children play. That's when Lucas, a 7-year-old boy, approached. "Is it true that you used to live on the street?" he asked, curious. Lily hesitated, remembering her mother's words. "We went through a difficult time. My mom said your mom is tricking Uncle Theodore to steal his money." The words hit Lily like a punch. "My mom is not a thief." "Then why were you begging for money?" Lily felt her eyes fill with tears, but before she could answer, the teacher approached. "Lucas, go play with the other children. Lily, are you okay?" The girl just shook her head, but inside she was shattered. Meanwhile, Daisy faced her own challenges at the mansion. Theodore had left for emergency meetings, trying to stem the damage caused by the stolen documents, and she decided to better explore the house to understand the man who had taken them in. It was in the library that she made the first disturbing discovery. Behind a poorly fitted bookshelf, she found a folder with old documents, deeds, certificates, architectural plans. But they weren't from the current house. They were from a property she immediately recognized. It was the house where she had been born and raised. Daisy's hands trembled as she examined the papers. The sale date was 20 years ago, signed by her maternal grandfather, Joe Silver. But there was something wrong with the signatures. She knew her grandfather's handwriting, and that wasn't his. "Impossible," she murmured to herself. She continued to search and found more documents, old photographs of the property, collection letters, and finally a paper that made her blood run cold. A death certificate of Joe Silver, dated 3 days before the alleged sale of the house. Her grandfather was already dead when he supposedly sold the property to Theodore. The sound of the main door opening made her quickly put away the documents. Theodore was coming back, and she needed to process that information before confronting him. "Daisy?" His voice echoed through the house. "I'm in the library," she replied, trying to sound normal. Theodore entered with a tired face and an expression she had not yet seen, vulnerability mixed with anger. "How was your day?" she asked, putting away the last papers. "Disastrous. Roger not only got to the land plots first, but offered conditions that I can't match. It's like he knew exactly what my strategy would be. Because he did, through the stolen documents. Worse than that." Theodore poured himself a glass of water with trembling hands. "He used the information to spread rumors that I was planning to overcharge the contracts. He managed to disqualify me before the meetings even started." Daisy noticed something different in the way he spoke. A subtle slowness, as if the words required more effort than usual. "Are you okay?" "Just tired. It's been a difficult few days." But she realized it wasn't just fatigue. There were moments of confusion in his eyes, small pauses as if he was trying to remember something. "Theodore, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure. How did you acquire this house?" The question caught him off guard. "I bought it 15 years ago. Why?" "From whom?" "From the old owner, Joe Silver. He was an old man who needed money to pay medical debts." Theodore looked at her with curiosity. "Why are you asking this?" Daisy felt the world spinning. Theodore didn't know. He really believed he had bought the house legitimately. Just curious. It's a beautiful house with a lot of history. At that moment, Lily arrived from school with eyes red from crying. Daisy immediately realized that something was wrong. "What's wrong, my love?" "The kids. They said bad things. About us." Theodore crouched down to the girl's height. "What kind of things?" That we're here to steal your things." The pain on Lily's face broke both their hearts. Daisy hugged her, feeling the anger grow in her chest. "You didn't listen to that nonsense, did you? But what if it's true? What if we're messing up his life?" Lily looked at Theodore with guilt-filled eyes. "Lily, look at me," Theodore said with a gentleness that surprised Daisy. "You and your mother are not messing anything up. You brought life to this house. For the first time in years, I wake up and don't feel completely alone. But people are talking. People always talk. What matters is what's here." He touched the girl's chest. "In your heart. You know what kind of person you are. Your mother knows. I know. The rest doesn't matter." Lily nodded, but Daisy could see that the cruel words had left deep marks. That night, after Lily went to sleep, Daisy made a decision. She could no longer hide what she had discovered. "Theodore, I need to tell you something about this house." "What?" "It used to belong to my family. My grandfather, Joe Silver, was my maternal grandfather." Theodore's face paled. "What do you mean?" "My grandfather died 3 days before the alleged sale. Someone forged his signature on the documents." "That's impossible. I bought this house legitimately, through a reputable realtor." "Who was the realtor?" Theodore was silent for a long moment, as if he was trying to remember. It was an older man, very convincing, said that Mr. Silver was desperate to sell. What was his name? I can't remember." Theodore ran his hand over his forehead, clearly frustrated. "Why can't I remember?" It was then that Daisy realized something that scared her. The forgetfulness, the confusion, the strange pauses. It wasn't just stress. "Theodore, when was the last time you had a complete medical checkup?" "Why are you asking that?" "Because I'm worried about you. Have you noticed some memory lapses?" His silence was answer enough. "How long has this been going on?" "A few months," he admitted reluctantly. "I thought it was business stress, the pressure with Roger." "You need to see a doctor." "I can't now. With this whole situation, with Roger trying to destroy me." "Theodore, if there's something wrong with your health, ignoring it won't make it disappear." He stood up abruptly, clearly agitated. "What if it's something serious? What if I can no longer take care of you?" The vulnerability in his voice broke Daisy's heart. "Then we'll take care of you. You don't understand. If I get sick, if my ability to work is compromised, Roger will be able to destroy everything I've built. And we'll be okay. We're stronger than you think." At that moment, the phone rang. It was almost midnight, so it could only be something urgent. "Hello? Theodore, it's Dr. Edwards. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about the tests you took last month." Daisy saw Theodore's face turn as white as paper. "What tests?" she whispered, but from his expression she already knew that the answer would change everything again. "Doctor, you can speak. Not over the phone. You need to come to my office tomorrow morning. It's important that you bring someone you trust with you." When Theodore hung up, his hands were shaking. "You already knew something was wrong," Daisy said. It wasn't a question. "I suspected it. That's why I took the tests. But then I regretted it. I tried to ignore it. What's the result?" Theodore looked at her, and for the first time since they met, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Tomorrow we'll find out. Together." But Daisy knew that, regardless of what the doctor said, their lives had just taken another unexpected and frightening turn. Dr. Edwards's office was immersed in a heavy silence when Theodore and Daisy sat before the desk filled with exams. The doctor, a 60-year-old man with grey hair and a compassionate look, organized the papers before speaking. "Theodore, The results confirmed what we suspected. You have an early form of degenerative dementia. It's not traditional Alzheimer's, but a variant that mainly affects recent memory and some executive functions. The words fell like bombs in the silence of the room. Daisy felt Theodore's hand tremble in hers as he tried to process the information. "How much time do I have?" Theodore's voice came out hoarse. "It's not a death sentence. With proper treatment, we can significantly slow down the progression. You may have years of functional life ahead of you." "But it will get worse," Theodore stated, not asked. "Yes, gradually. That's why it's important that we start treatment immediately and organize your life for this new reality." Daisy swallowed the lump in her throat. What kind of treatment? Medications to slow the progression, occupational therapy, cognitive exercises, and mainly, the doctor looked directly at her, a stable environment with trusted people. During the drive back home, neither of them spoke. Theodore drove slowly, as if each movement required extra concentration. Daisy watched the familiar streets of Bakersfield pass by the window, trying to absorb everything she had heard. "I understand if you want to leave," Theodore said finally, breaking the silence. "Why?" "Because it's not fair to you. Lily needs stability, someone who can take care of her properly. I'm going to become a burden." Daisy turned to face him. "Stop the car." "What?" "Stop the car now." Theodore pulled over to the side of the road, confused. Daisy turned completely to him. "You saved our life. When everyone looked at us with disgust, you gave us dignity. Do you really believe we're going to abandon you at the first difficulty? But this is different. This is life. Sometimes the people we love get sick. Don't run away from it because it's inconvenient." The word love hung in the air between them. Daisy realized what she had said and blushed, but she didn't take it back. "Daisy! No. Let me finish. For years, I thought my life was over when I lost everything. But when I saw you at that gas station defending my daughter, I realized that there was still goodness in the world. You gave me back hope. Now, it's my turn to reciprocate." Theodore closed his eyes, emotional. "You don't understand. I'm going to forget important things. I'm going to get confused. I may even forget who you are. Then every time you forget, we'll remind you. Lily and I will be your memory." When they got home, they found Lily sitting in the living room with an expression that was too serious for a 6-year-old child. "You went to the doctor," she said. It wasn't a question. "How do you know?" Daisy sat next to her daughter. "Because when we lived on the streets, you always had that face when someone got sick and didn't have money for medicine." The girl's perception surprised them. Theodore crouched down to her height. "Lily, the doctor said that I have a disease that can make me forget some things sometimes, like Grandma Connie before she went away." Daisy choked. Her mother had faced similar problems before passing away, and Lily was too young to understand at the time, but she had observed everything. "Similar," Theodore confirmed gently, "but it's not the same. And the doctors have medicine that can help." Lily was thoughtful for a moment. "So you're going to need special care?" "I will. Like when I was sick and you stayed up all night taking care of me." "Exactly like that." Lily stood up and hugged Theodore tightly. "Then I'll take care of you too. We're family now, right?" At that moment, the phone rang. It was Roger. "Theodore, my old friend, I heard you went to the doctor today. I hope everything is okay." Daisy and Theodore exchanged alarmed glances. How could Roger know that? "What do you want, Roger?" "I want to make a proposal. I know things haven't been going well for you lately. The business, this delicate situation with your new family. How about we talk about a possible merger of our companies?" "I have no interest. Are you sure? because from what I've heard you may need assistance to manage your business from now on." Daisy's blood boiled. "Does he have informants?" "In the hospital too," Theodore signaled for her to calm down. "My business is doing very well, thank you, for now. But what if your condition worsens? It would be terrible if your company started making wrong decisions because of, how can I say, cognitive impairment." The implicit threat was clear. Roger not only knew about the disease, but was planning to use that information. "I'll think about your proposal and give you an answer," Theodore said, controlling his anger. "Great, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't last forever." After he hung up, Theodore was silent for long minutes. "He has spies everywhere," Daisy murmured. "It's worse than that. If he spreads information about my condition, he can question my ability to manage the company. Shareholders may force changes in leadership." "Can he do that?" "If he has medical evidence, yes." Daisy felt a determination grow in her chest. "Then let's prevent him from having that evidence." "How?" "First, we switch doctors. We're going to a specialist in another city where Roger has no contacts. Second, we limit who knows about the diagnosis. And third, we find something we can use against him. Everyone has secrets, Theodore, especially men like Roger." That night, while Theodore slept, Daisy returned to the library to continue investigating the documents about the house. If someone had falsified the sale, she needed to find out who and why. That's when she found something that changed everything. A series of letters hidden inside an old book. They were correspondence between the fake realtor and another person, dated 15 years ago. "Joe Silver is hospitalized," said one of the letters. "Advanced dementia. The family can't afford the treatment. It's the perfect opportunity." "Proceed with the forgery," replied the other. "Theodore Sampson has enough money and won't question the documentation if everything looks legal. And when he finds out, he won't find out, and if he does, we'll already have what we need." Daisy continued reading, her horror growing with each line. The purchase of the house hadn't just been a fraud. It had been planned specifically for Theodore. Someone wanted him to buy that property. But why? The answer came in the last letter of the pile. "The location is perfect for our future plans. When we build the shopping center, Sampson's property will be the central point. He will profit so much that he will never question how he acquired the house." Daisy felt her blood run cold. Someone had orchestrated everything. Her grandfather's illness, the forgery, the sale to Theodore as part of a bigger plan. And by the handwriting of the letters, she recognized who had signed as R.V. Roger Vance. He wasn't just Theodore's competitor. He was the man who had destroyed her family 15 years ago, used Theodore as a pawn, and was now trying to take everything back. But there was something else in the letters that terrified her even more. A reference to ensuring that Sampson develops the same cognitive problems that made Joe Silver so cooperative. With trembling hands, Daisy ran to the kitchen and examined all the food, drinks, medications. If Roger had poisoned her grandfather years ago, he could be doing the same thing to Theodore, and she needed to find out how before it was too late. Daisy spent the entire night analyzing every item in the kitchen, every medicine, every cleaning product. When the sun rose, she had a terrible suspicion. The coffee that Theodore drank religiously every morning had a slightly bitter taste that she had attributed to the quality of the bean, but now she realized was something more sinister. She saved a sample of the coffee in a container and decided to take it for analysis. But first, she needed to confirm her suspicions without alerting anyone. "Good morning." Theodore appeared in the kitchen, looking more confused than usual. "What time is it?" 7 in the morning. Did you sleep well?" "I don't remember going to sleep." He ran his hand over his head, clearly frustrated. "It's happening faster than I thought." Daisy watched him automatically head to the coffee machine and felt her stomach turn. "Theodore, how about we have breakfast out today? There's a new bakery that Lily wants to check out." "Sure." He stopped, confused. "But why don't we have coffee here?" "Just for a change." She forced a smile. "Sometimes changes of routine are good." During breakfast at the bakery, Daisy watched Theodore carefully. Away from home, away from the suspicious coffee, he seemed more alert, more present. It wasn't definitive proof, but it reinforced her suspicions. "Mommy, can I ask a question?" Lily whispered while Theodore was in the bathroom. "Of course, my love." "Why were you awake all night? I heard you messing around in the kitchen." The girl's perception continued to surprise her. "I was just checking some things." "Does it have to do with him being sick?" "It might." Lily frowned, thoughtful. "Mommy, remember when we lived on the streets and that lady got sick after the bad man gave her food?" Daisy felt a chill. Lily was referring to an incident months ago when a man had offered poisoned food to a homeless woman to rob her afterward. "I remember. Do you think someone is giving Theodore something bad?" The innocence with which her daughter asked the most important question of all almost made Daisy cry. "It's possible, my love. That's why we need to take very good care of him." When they returned home, Daisy put a plan into action. She suggested that they replace the entire stock of food in the house, claiming that she wanted to prepare healthier meals to help with Theodore's treatment. "You don't have to go to so much trouble," he protested. "I want to do it. Let me take care of you." While shopping, Daisy watched Theodore interact with the vendors, answer questions, make decisions. Away from home for a few hours, he seemed almost normal. Back at the mansion, she prepared lunch with completely new ingredients and served filtered water from a new brand. During the meal, Theodore seemed more focused, more himself. "You know," he said, "I feel better today, more clear." "That's good to hear. Maybe the medication is working faster than the doctor expected," Daisy agreed, but she knew it wasn't the medication. It was the absence of the poison. That afternoon, while Lily did her homework and Theodore rested, Daisy received an unexpected call. "Mrs. Daisy, this is from the Clinical Analysis Laboratory. Did you request analysis of a substance?" "Yes." "You need to come here urgently. We found something very worrying." At the laboratory, the technician showed the results with a serious expression. "The sample contains traces of arsenic. Not enough to cause immediate death, but in small and constant doses over months, it can cause exactly the symptoms you described." Daisy felt her legs weaken. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. This is a case for the police." "No, not yet. I need more evidence first." Back at the house, Daisy found Theodore and Lily playing in the garden. For the first time in weeks, he was genuinely laughing, running after the girl in a game of tag. Without the poison in his body, he was returning to himself. "Daisy!" he shouted, smiling. "Come play with us!" Seeing him like that, knowing that someone had deliberately tried to destroy his mind, filled Daisy with a cold and determined rage. That night, after Lily fell asleep, she told Theodore everything. The letters, the poisoning, the connection to her grandfather, Roger's plan. 15 years, Theodore murmured, incredulous. "He's planned this for 15 years. And he almost succeeded. If it weren't for me finding those letters by chance." "It wasn't chance." Theodore looked at her intently. "It was you. Your intelligence, your determination. You saved my life. I haven't saved it yet. Roger still has enough power to destroy your company, spread lies about your condition. Not if he's exposed first." "How?" Theodore smiled, and Daisy saw a determination that she hadn't seen in days. "Tomorrow there's a meeting of the local business association. All the major business leaders in the region will be there. including journalists. If we present the evidence publicly, he'll deny everything. Not if we have more than old letters. Theodore picked up the phone. I'm going to call a private investigator who's worked for me before. If we can get proof that Roger is still using criminal tactics, it's risky. If he finds out we know, we're already at risk. At least this way we fight back. In the following days, they worked with the investigator to gather evidence. They uncovered a network of corruption that went far beyond the poisoning. Bribes to public officials, forgery of documents, systematic sabotage of competitors. 3 days before the meeting of the business association, Roger appeared at the house without warning. Theodore, my old friend, how are you feeling? Better than ever, Theodore replied, and he wasn't lying. That's great, because I have a final proposal for you. Sell your company to me for a fair price, and I guarantee that your health difficulties don't become public knowledge. And if I refuse? It would be a shame, especially considering your new family. It would be terrible if something happened to them because of your stubbornness. The threat to Daisy and Lily was the last straw. I accept your proposal, Theodore said calmly. Roger smiled, triumphant. I knew you were a sensible man. But there's one condition. Sign the papers at the meeting of the business association, in front of everyone. I want them to see how you helped me in a difficult time. Of course, it will be a pleasure. On the morning of the meeting, Daisy helped Theodore choose his clothes, her hands trembling with nervousness. What if it goes wrong? It won't. He held her face in his hands. You know why I'm sure? Why? Because for the first time in 3 years, I have something worth fighting for. I have a family. At the meeting, in front of 50 business leaders, journalists and local authorities, Theodore took the stage. Before announcing the sale of my company, I would like to share a story with you. A story about how I discovered that someone had been poisoning me for months in an attempt to make me seem incompetent to manage my business. The silence in the room was total. Roger paled. This person not only tried to destroy my health, but forged documents 15 years ago to make me buy a property stolen from a needy family. Theodore presented all the evidence, the letters, the lab reports, the private detectives' investigations. When he finished, the police were entering the room. Roger Vance, you're under arrest. 6 months later, Daisy was in the garden of the house watching Lily play with other children from the neighborhood. The girl had become popular at school when the story of how her mother helped expose a criminal spread. "Mommy!" Lily shouted. "Theodore's here!" Daisy turned and saw Theodore walking towards them with an envelope in his hands. Proper medical treatment had completely stabilized his condition. The papers from the registry office arrived, he said, smiling. And the house officially returned to the name of the Silver family. Your house, Daisy. Our house, she corrected. Our family. Theodore knelt in front of her, taking a small box out of his pocket. In that case, Daisy Silver, will you marry me? For real this time. Daddy! Lily shouted before Daisy could answer, running to hug Theodore. The word Daddy made both their eyes fill with tears. Lily had started calling him that, naturally, and he never corrected her. Yes, Daisy whispered, tears running freely. Yes, I will. As Theodore placed the ring on her finger and Lily danced with joy around them, Daisy thought about how it had all started with a humiliation at a gas station. Sometimes the worst moments in life are just the beginning of the best stories, and this story, born of suffering but strengthened by love, had finally found its happy ending.